Hey, how goes it, everyone? Hope you're all doing well. So, it's that time of year again. That time for us to do our civic duty as citizens. That time for us to use our voice and participate in democracy. That time for us to make the decision on who is rightfully worthy to represent us, the people. That's right. I am, of course, talking about the Death Battle Season 10 Viewer Choice Ballot. What? You thought I was gonna be talking about something else? Come on, don't be silly, you read the title. But yeah, Death Battle's doing something special for Season 10 where YouTube channel members can have a say in deciding one of the matchups to be made into a full episode for the season, and I think that's really cool. Basically what they're doing is that they're taking audience suggestions, gathering up some of their favorites, and putting them into a poll later down the line for us to vote on. Of course, everyone has their favorites they're rallying behind, I know I sure do, and today I'm here to pitch some matchups to you that you can help support. 7 in fact. It was gonna be 10, but I didn't have that much to say about all of them, so oh well. Missed opportunities aside, let's not waste any more time, because we've got some candidates to get to. And where better to start than with the big granddaddy of all long-running requested matchups that still have yet to happen, Cole McGrath versus Alex Mercer, the video game rivalry matchup we still have yet to get, even though its support base dates all the way back to the very beginning of the show. Now, I wasn't a PlayStation kid, so I don't really have a personal horse in this race, but that doesn't mean I don't recognize the cool potential that this matchup has. You could do a lot of environmental stuff, like Cole causing electrical overloads, or Alex consuming civilians, and since you're obviously not going to be focusing on just evil Cole, like your PlayStation All-Stars, you can have Cole actually swoop in to save some civilians from being turned into just Alex's fuel source. On top of that, from what I understand, there's potential for this to give us one of the most over-the-top, gnarliest kills in the show's history. Now who can pass that up? Sad thing is, it's been so long, and this matchup doesn't even have the benefit of a decade-long confirmation like Galactus vs. Unicron has, so people have taken to joking about, oh, Colex is never gonna happen, Infamous is never gonna get on. This matchup has become the Geno of Death Battle, and I'm here to say, enough is enough, you animals. This is the prime time to make the impossible possible. We can make it happen! Before we move on to the next matchup, I just want to take the time to shout out one Hyper Starman, who's been hoping for this matchup for God knows how long, and in light of the ballot has been making a massive push to make this happen. Can we make miracles, people? If not for any other reason, you should support this matchup to make this man's dream come true. Going forward, the rest of these won't be in any kind of special order, I'm just gonna go over them alphabetically, which means that next up on our docket is Bill Cipher vs. Discord. Holy shit, where do I begin? Like Colex, this is another one of those matchups that people have wanted forever, and even on his own, Bill has been requested for ages, so this would be a good time for these two to finally enter the fold. I know I, for one, would love to see how nutty and chaotic the fight can get, with the two throwing out every wacky thing they can imagine, much to the chagrin of everyone around them, all while they throw out top-tier banter. Hell, with how powerful these two are, you could potentially get really abstract and cosmic as the fight goes on, and they stop toying with their food, as it were. I genuinely don't know what all I can really add when this matchup has already been talked up for years, and everything about how great this one is has already been said a bunch of times already. It's honestly a bit disappointing to me that this hasn't happened already, but thanks to this here ballot, we can make sure that this finally becomes a reality. Speaking of things long overdue for Death Battle, Fire Emblem absolutely fits that bill. It's one of, if not my favorite series ever, so to see it get covered on the show would be absolutely amazing for me. But it can't get in with just any old matchup. That's why I'm proposing Lucina vs. Ciri from The Witcher in order to fit that bill. For those who may not know the connections, both are princesses of ruined nations who hail from special bloodlines, Lucina being of exalted blood as a descendant of Elise's first exalt, and Ciri bearing elder blood as a descendant of Lara Dorren, and both have traveled throughout time and space in order to flee from those who sought them for nefarious purposes due to said bloodlines. They're also the daughters of their story's respective main characters, though Ciri is more of Geralt's daughter figure in her case. Yeah, it's not a Bible's worth, but it's still a really solid foundation between the two. Given what's available to them, this could end up being a very dynamic fight, too. Both are swordswomen, but Lucina has access to additional skills and weaponry via class changing, and Ciri is able to teleport, so she has a good deal of battlefield control. Heck, you could have a really cool moment where Lucina anticipates where Ciri's going to teleport in order to land a decisive strike and catch her off guard, similar to Shredder vs. Silver Samurai. Plus, the idea of combining the soundtracks of Awakening and the Witcher series just sounds too incredible to pass up. For me, Lucina's pool of matchups typically ranges from not really vibing to being actively bad, so to have a matchup like this where I can look at it and solidly say that I like it makes me just so happy. And all the more so that there's actually a good amount of support that's been growing for this one recently. So hopefully we can keep that momentum and traction going into Season 10. Fingers crossed, right? But I'm not quite done with Fire Emblem just yet, because while I have a softer spot for Awakening, and Lucina is already a strong pick for introducing this franchise to Death Battle, Three Houses has its own frontrunners, like Kylo vs. Edelgard, or Byleth vs. Traveler or Reen, but for me, and a good number of others, the big one is Guts vs. Dimitri. Not only would this be another strong way to introduce Fire Emblem, but this would also bring what a lot of people have been wanting for quite some time, Guts getting a second go around the horn. And while Claire is also a really good grab, this is my preferred idea by a country mile. You could also get a really visceral and brutal fight out of this, especially with the ending. Like, imagine Dimitri breaking through the Berserker armor to crush Guts' skull or something like that. Almost like a good version of Bucky vs. Jason's kill. But on top of that, you could also get an undercurrent of sorrow and tragedy, given the arcs that both characters have undergone. And again, the music potential is just so cool. Vengeful Berserkers by Brandon Yates and Revenge in the Dark by Sky the GM are both really good interpretations for this match's track. Go listen to them if you haven't already. If the cards are played right on this one, we could be looking at one of the new best of all time, and Season 10 seems like a great time to make it so. But if you're looking for something just as raw with a closer to contemporary feel, then I've got just the thing for you. King Bradley from Fullmetal Alchemist vs. Solidus Snake from Metal Gear. Fullmetal Alchemist and Metal Gear have both been itching for new blood on the show, and the former especially has been wanting for a good episode. And not only do I think this is my favorite idea to fulfill that need, but I get the feeling that this is the general favorite for that as well. Admittedly, this is probably the matchup on here that I have the least to say about. I just think it'd be cool to see them duke it out, determined to see their ideals realized and ensure that their nation isn't left without its leader. This would absolutely go hard as hell as a full episode, and I would love to see it happen, as well as seeing it get even more of the support that it rightfully deserves. One thing I'd love to see more of on the show is further fighting game representation, particularly beyond just Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. And while there are plenty of great options I could list off all the livelong day, today I've got one in particular that goes way back, but tends to fly under a lot of people's radars. Rachel Alucard from BlazBlue versus Remilia Scarlet from Touhou Project. The connections here are relatively straightforward. Centuries-old aristocratic vampire girls, who are prone to boredom with a less refined younger sister, and their most loyal servants are typically enemies to vampires, Valkenhayn being a werewolf, and Sakia being theorized in-universe to have formerly been a vampire hunter. I'd be really interested to see the two interact, with Rachel's dignified condescension playing off Remilia's grandiose childishness. The interactions between their abilities would also be interesting to see them bounce off each other, with Rachel setting up a bunch of tricks and traps, while Remilia just riddles her with spells. Also, BlazBlue's music is great. Touhou's music is legendary, so the idea of bringing the two together for a track sounds like it'd bring about something glorious, particularly with these two themes. Like, the idea of marrying Queen of Rose and Septet for the Dead Princess just sounds like a fucking phenomenal idea. And on top of all of that, Toho getting on is an idea that I've seen thrown around here and there for a while within the community, and BlazBlue is dying for a redemption arc on this show, so I think this would be the best way to bring both of those to life. Hey, it worked for JoJo with Dio vs Alucard, so I'm confident that it could happen here again. I know I, for one, would love to see them go 3 for 3 in terms of amazing vampire fights, and let's not kid ourselves, so would you. So let's help get this matchup more on the map. And as we wrap up here today, let's talk Pokemon. Like Fire Emblem, it's one of the series ever for me, and I'm shocked at how little use and variety it's seen on this show. There have been 6 episodes, and everyone they've used have either been from Gen 1 and or Smash. I wish they'd branch out more, and one of my favorite ideas to accomplish that is Ragyo vs Lusamine. Again, connections are pretty straightforward. Shitty moms who are obsessed with beauty and are CEOs of companies that on the surface seem like they're doing good things for society, but are actually just cover-ups for their dirty dealings with aliens that they merge with. Simple and sweet. On top of finally branching out more with Pokemon, this would give Kill la Kill another chance on the show, which is greatly appreciated. But that alone is not what I want to get into, so let's talk potential! The structure of the fight writes itself. Lusamine sicks her team on Ragyo, Ragyo fights back and dominates them with her mind stitching, thus turning them against their trainer. Then Lusamine busts out Nihilego to transform into the Mother Beast, snaps her team out of it and goes on the offensive, thus forcing Ragyo to bust out the Shinra Kotetsu for the final act. Sounds simple, but there's so much you could do with it. Like with the Mother Beast transformation, you could have Ragyo look on in stunned, terrified silence as the actual form change is cloaked in shadow, similar to Magneto vs Tetsuo. And that's not even getting into the music. Both series have banger soundtracks, and their respective character themes are no exception, so a merger of the two just sounds fucking great. Go listen to Monster Knows Best by Brandon Yates, it's a pretty good idea of what kind of thing I'm talking about here. If you couldn't tell, I'm very passionate about this idea in particular, and out of the selection in this video, it's probably my favorite out of all of them, so I would love for this one to become a reality. And if you weren't on board already, hopefully I've convinced you that this is a pretty cool thing that they should do. And hopefully, it can garner some support for next season, eh? And there you have it, 7 ideas for next season that you could support. Obviously, this isn't even scratching the tip of the iceberg in terms of potential matchups, but if I were to go into every single idea I wanted to see, this video would never come out, and it's already long enough as it is. As it stands, right now we're only a couple days away from the last call for candidates, so if you're not already a Death Battle channel member, get on it, because that's the way to have a say. Hopefully I've sold you on some of these matchups if you weren't already, and thank you as always for making it this far if you're here. I'm gonna go ahead and call it here, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay safe out there, and have a good one.